Now at 5, authorities released the name of a pedestrian killed in a Joplin crash. How Pitt State is using sticky notes to raise awareness of domestic violence. And
President Biden delivers what he calls his closing arguments to voters with a little more than 2 weeks to go until the midterm election. I'm Skyler Henry on Capitol Hill with his message as millions across the country smash early voting records.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Finally, some relief, rain across the 4 states. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. Let's go to Doug Heddy for our first look at the weather.
Well, of course, we've been in an extreme drought over the past, 3 or 4 months. So we really needed this widespread moderate to heavy amounts of rain. Really started to work in kind of mid-morning and then it spread through all day long. We've had a few embedded little thunder showers, but mainly just kind of moderate and then some pockets of heavy rain where you see the yellows, a little bit of orange. That is our moderate to heavy rain. And this band is slowly pushing off toward the east. Heaviest now from about Stockton, Greenfield over toward Mount Vernon. A little bit lighter once you get in southwestern Missouri. And then it picks up again from Fort Scott, Girard, Pittsburgh down toward Columbus. And we are going to see bands of showers continuing through the evening hours. Then we're going to get a break, but another batch rolls in later on tonight. We're going to break that down for you here in just a bit.
All right, we'll see you then. Authorities released the name of a pedestrian killed in a weekend crash in Joplin. They say 24-year-old Andrew Dodson of rural Joplin was struck by a car on Main Street near the campus of Ozark Christian College. During the investigation, authorities noticed a motorcycle was found in the area of Zora Street and Main Street. They say the motorcycle had run off the road near the exit ramp and crashed in the ravine. They believe that motorcycle belonged to Dodson. Dodson was pronounced dead on the scene. The driver of the car is cooperating with that investigation. Parsons, Kansas police have stepped up their nighttime enforcement in response to an increase in calls about suspicious activity. The police department wants to be proactive and work with the residents. They encourage residents to communicate with the police and call about any suspicious activity they might see. The police say lights and cameras can also be a big help when dealing with criminals at night.
You see somebody that's in your neighborhood that, maybe they're milling around cars or something, call it in. I think the best thing I've been telling people is get the Ring cameras. I mean, they pick up a lot and they're really good videos.
Like a lot of police departments, the Parsons PD is short-staffed and working 12-hour shifts. They're going to get new workers once they complete their training. A Pitt State student group is partnering with campus police to raise awareness about domestic violence. That group, Students for Violence Prevention, gave others a chance to cover a campus police cruiser and sticky notes. Police were able to use the sticky notes to ask questions about domestic violence. It'll be answered at a panel on Wednesday.
I hope they know that they are heard, that we do want to know what they want to know. We want them to be able to ask questions and have them get the information that they need to hopefully prevent it in the future.
Panel will be Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 5:30 at the Overman Student Center. A new amendment might be coming to the Missouri Constitution. Amendment 5 would create the Missouri Department of the National Guard as an administrative department within the state's executive branch. As of this year, the Missouri National Guard is part of the Missouri Department of Public Safety.
Exercise direct control over the National Guard, which is what it's supposed to be. Right now, he would have to exercise it through the head of the Public Safety Department, then to get to the National Guard.
A yes vote supports providing the state's National Guard with an executive department called the Missouri Department of the National Guard, while a no vote opposes the constitutional amendment keeping the state's National Guard as part of the Missouri Department of Public Safety. President Biden delivered what he calls his closing argument to Democratic Party workers. This as Republicans are gaining ground in the battle for control of Congress. Skyler Henry has details from Capitol Hill.
President Biden rallied the troops at the Democratic National Committee headquarters with a little more than 2 weeks to go until Election Day.
I'm here to deliver what I believe is a closing argument about what we need to do in the next 15 days.
Republicans have capitalized on a weakening economy to surge in the latest polls.
All the overspending in Washington, they have created the worst inflation since Jimmy Carter was president.
But the president says Democrats need to make a case to voters that Republican policies won't work.
Republicans are doubling down on their MAGA trickle-down economics that benefits the very wealthy, failed the country before, and will fail it again if they win.
The time to turn the tide on the economic message is running out. Millions of Americans have already cast their ballot, as early voting is underway in several more states today, including Texas and Florida. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the focus now is on getting voters to the polls.
Now we're down to the stretch, and we're down to very close races, and we feel very confident.
But New York Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, who chairs the DCCC and is in charge of House Democrat election efforts, is in a fight to stay in Congress himself. The Cook Political Report has shifted Maloney's race with Republican challenger Mike Lawler from leans Democrat to toss-up. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
CBS News has learned the DCCC plans to spend more than $600,000 in advertising in Congressman Maloney's district in an effort to save that seat. All told, Republicans have already spent more than $6 million in ads. Rishi Sunak has won the race to be leader of the Conservative Party and will become Britain's next Prime Minister, the third this year. The former Treasury chief will be Britain's first leader, replacing Liz Truss, who resigned last week. Sunak's only rival conceded and withdrew earlier today. Sunak now becomes Britain's youngest prime minister in more than a century. Ukraine, the U.S., and several allies are rejecting Russia's claims that Ukraine is getting ready to use a dirty bomb on its territory. Russia's defense minister made this claim in a series of calls with U.S., British, French, and Turkish defense officials. But a National Safety Council spokesperson says this is Russia's attempt to escalate the war. The Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, says it's Moscow that's planning to use a dirty bomb. A dirty bomb uses explosives and spreads radiological material through the air to contaminate the area. Still ahead, battling overdoses.
Despite the war on opioid addiction, overdose deaths keep rising. I'm Michael George with the new approaches some communities are trying.
Plus, the anti-cholesterol drug that might be a weapon against COVID. Topping today's Health Watch, a drug that's commonly used for lowering cholesterol might also be effective against COVID-19. A study at the University of Central Florida tracked about 39,000 COVID patients. They found those using statins had a 37% lower risk of dying from the virus. After years of warnings about the addictive nature of opioids, there's been no decrease in the number of prescriptions written for seniors after surgery. A study in Canada did find doctors are prescribing lower doses, but researchers say physicians should consider non-opioid painkillers when possible. Despite a nationwide effort to stop opioid abuse, overdose deaths continue to rise, with more than 100,000 annually. Michael George spoke to addiction specialists and people going through recovery to talk about new approaches to ending the crisis.
Stephen Bell's struggle with addiction started when he was prescribed OxyContin after a surgery. When he was introduced to fentanyl, he nearly lost his life.
Only takes a very little bit to kill you, and I've experienced overdoses myself with it because it's very strong.
Stephen is alive thanks to the overdose-reversing medication Narcan, also known as naloxone. He's now in treatment at the Camelot Substance Abuse Program on Staten Island.
I didn't know how to stop, so I definitely had to go away to treatment to have somebody to help me stop.
Fentanyl is everywhere, in everything.
Camelot CEO Carl Farron says he's seeing the crisis get worse, not better. The CDC says 107,000 Americans died of overdoses in 2021, up 15% from the year before, and 2/3 of those deaths are linked to fentanyl and similar synthetic opioids. More communities are trying a new approach, making Narcan available in public places, like a free vending machine at this church in Austin. And last month, the LA Unified School District gave every middle and high school Narcan after 7 student overdoses in a month, including 15-year-old Melanie Ramos.
Offering that is definitely a plus. It's a very simple tool, I think, to assist on the streets, on the ground level,
Farron also says there's a desperate need for more substance abuse counselors and social workers.
There's just not enough to go around to really serve the population. It's been underfunded, underpaid.
A national commitment needed.
It definitely needs to be addressed more and looked at more, definitely, yeah.
To stop a growing epidemic. Michael George, CBS News, Staten Island.
You can learn how to use Narcan to stop an overdose free of charge. There's a training video on the CDC website. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, America's recycling report card.
A new troubling report shows recycling rates are on the decline. I'm Elise Preston with why experts say consumers may be better off refilling and reusing containers.
Plus, we have more rain working in tonight and tomorrow. Those details coming up. Finally, we got some good amounts of rain into the region. We haven't had a good widespread moderate to heavy rain quite some time, and that's why we've had such a serious drought across the region. Most of this rain started to pick up during the morning hours and then really intensified by mid-morning, and it's been raining really ever since that point in time. We haven't had too many thunderstorms. We had a few stronger ones earlier, especially in northeastern Oklahoma. But now this batch is continuing to just kind of push through the region. Now, where you see the yellows and the oranges, that's showing us the heavier amounts of rain, the moderate rain, and a little bit of heavy rain. So we have moderate rain right along the state line of Kansas and also Missouri, and then Oklahoma and Missouri down through northwestern Arkansas, and then another batch once you get a little farther toward the east, towards Springfield, up through central parts of Missouri. In fact, we'll zoom in. You can see from Nevada to Lamar, a little bit heavier once you get over toward Pittsburgh and then also Fort Scott. We'll track a little farther south. Here's I-44, Mount Vernon through Sarcoxy. Rain picking up right through the metro at this point in time. We'll go a little bit farther south, southwestern Missouri, northwest Arkansas, periods of light to moderate rain. Once we get into Oklahoma, you can see moderate, some pockets of heavy rain from Grand Lake back toward Veneta, up I-44 toward Miami. We'll track a little bit farther toward the north and to the west. And you can see this back edge, so just east of Iola and then through Erie, about Parsons. So the rain is starting to lighten up just a bit. And this is batch number 1 that we will see of 2, which will affect us as we go through the overnight hours tonight. Pretty good heavy amounts of rain right through southeastern Kansas, Missouri, back through Oklahoma. Most of us have picked up on an average in this kind of rectangle about an inch and a quarter of rain. Some areas have picked up as much as 2, even upwards of 3 inches of rain. Through the evening, showers continue, a little bit of a break, down to 48. Showers will pick back up again after midnight for us tonight. It's wet, so be careful on the roadways. 55, northerly winds at about 10. Of course, our humidity is way up there. Look at this big storm system stretching from Minnesota down to parts of Texas and then back through parts of Oklahoma. That's our second batch. That's the upper level low, which is going to rotate through late tonight into tomorrow. So let's break down through the next several hours, a break through the evening. Showers start to pick back up. Here's 1 a.m. into the morning hours. Now, the heaviest with batch number 2 is going to be along and south of I-44, but a few embedded little thunderstorms in southwestern Missouri. Let's go through the morning, periods of showers, a few random thunderstorms. Here's 9 a.m., and then it will start to advance off toward the east. Here's 1 p.m., sunshine pops out as we head into the afternoon, but temperatures are going to be pretty chilly. So you can see our rain chances go down, then they go back up after midnight into the morning hours. Additional rainfall from this point in time, heaviest is going to be on the Missouri side. Kansas side, not too much, but at least we are still getting a little bit more rain as we go through tonight into tomorrow. 55 tomorrow, that's it. 39 tomorrow night. Wednesday and Thursday look good. We do have showers Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, mainly in our southern counties, but it will affect portions of the region.
Whatever rain we can get at this point is going to be welcome.
Yes,
we
we
for
need
a
it.
while. Thanks, Doug. Hey, take a look at what the weekend's high winds left at a home in Security, Colorado, near Colorado Springs. The homeowner woke up to find his home buried in tumbleweeds. His home was the talk of the neighborhood, with neighbors showing up to gawk and take pictures, drive through the pile, and most importantly, yeah, they did offer to help clean up the mess. Coming up, the trend in recycling rates. First, though, we honor a local veteran of the Korean War. George Robinson served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1947 to 1951. That includes time stationed in Guam. His hometown, Columbus, Kansas. And we're proud to salute Private First Class George Robinson, a four-state hero. In today's Consumer Watch, 2 Disney annual pass holders are suing Orlando's Walt Disney World over its pandemic-era reservation system. They say the system put into place during the height of the pandemic to limit crowds violates their contract for unlimited access to the theme parks. Disney responded saying it was upfront about the changes and offered pass holders the opportunity to opt out of the program. America's latest recycling report card shows a failing grade. A Greenpeace study found paper, cardboard, and metals are all recycled at a high rate, but plastic continues to just be trash. Only 5% of household plastic waste is being recycled, even as production increases. Reporter Elise Preston shows us one store that's trying to stop that plastic from even entering the front door.
Households across the country haul plastic recycling to the curb every week, but a new Greenpeace report finds it's really a dead-end street. According to the report, U.S. households generated about 51 million tons of plastic waste last year. Just 2.4 million tons were recycled. That's only about 5%.
Plastics are just really difficult to recycle, and that's why these numbers are so low.
The difficulties range from basic economics to contamination. The plastics industry is advocating chemical recycling to reuse material.
We bring in used plastic, we heat it up, we vaporize it, and we have a phase change separation from all the fillers and dyes and inks that are in that plastic.
Greenpeace argues the technology is unproven and it doesn't solve the whole issue.
By focusing on chemical recycling, we're ignoring the rest of the problems that plastics create.
One way for consumers to be involved in a solution is to stop buying single-use plastic and use refillable containers instead.
Sounds good.
Rachel Garcia owns Dry Goods Refillery in Montclair, New Jersey, a plastic-free grocery store where customers bring their own reusable containers.
The idea of bringing your own container isn't something new and novel. I want it to feel like in 5 years, this is so normal that it's like your coffee shop or like your pizzeria, that there can be one in every town.
More stores like this one have popped up in recent years, but the practice is far from common. Greenpeace says it's up to consumers and legislation to ultimately turn the tide on plastic. Elise Preston, CBS News, Montclair, New Jersey.
Some common household items like yogurt containers, drink cups, and some films are among the least recyclable kinds of plastic. Fans of popular Netflix shows like Stranger Things, Squid Game, Bridgerton can now get a fully immersive experience at a Netflix pop-up store in Los Angeles. The store features merchandise from those series and is expected to add holiday items in the coming weeks. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, why aren't mammograms covered by insurance in some states? Then on KOAM News at 6, police in Neosho, Missouri investigate a possible murder-suicide. Plus, more reaction to a Missouri ballot measure that would establish a Department of the National Guard. And we're going to hear from the Pitt State Gorillas after their victory this weekend against Missouri Western to move to 8-0 on the season. Stay with us. CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. If you have to be among the undead, might as well at least be someplace tropical and beautiful. Some 6,500 costumed zombies roamed Key West, but instead of staggering around in classic Walking Dead fashion, they biked along shorelines and streets during the annual Fantasy Fest Zombie Bike Ride. The Biking Dead Fantasy Fest continues through October 30th with a full slate of events for the first time since before the coronavirus pandemic began. I wonder if you're a zombie if you worry about things like sunburn.
Maybe.
You think?
Maybe not. I mean, they're pretty pale.
That's true, but you know, arms fall off and they don't worry about that.
It's true. That is true.
Rain
Yeah, we got periods of showers continuing the next hour or two, and then we're going to get a little bit of a break, and then it's going to pick back up again after midnight through the first half of tomorrow. We may get a little bit of sunshine by tomorrow evening, but chilly, high temp 55.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. We'll see you right back here at 6. Let's make it a great evening.